adding and subtracting fractions with me, Catherine. Let's first review a couple things about fractions. When we have like fractions, these are fractions with the same denominator or the same bottom. For instance, 5, 6, 3, 6, 7, 6, 6, 6, and so on. You'll notice that the denominator or the bottom are all the same. Unlike fractions are those that do not have the same denominator. Their denominators or their bottoms are different. Their bottoms or denominators are different. For instance, 4/5 and 5/8. 5 and 8 are not the same, so these are not like fractions. The big rule to adding and subtracting fractions is that you need a common or like denominator. That means the bottoms have to be the same. Notice I didn't say the least common denominator. It doesn't need to be the least common denominator. They just have to be like denominators. They have to be the same. Let's look at an example. To add fractions, you need a like or common denominator. When I take 1/5 plus 2/5, we'll notice that the bottom or the denominators are 5. That's cool. But what exactly does that mean? Well, here's 1/5, and we're going to add 2/5, so that gives us 3/5. We could have just simply added the numerator or the top. 1 plus 2 is 3. Notice that the denominator or the bottom never changes. Let's look at the next one. 4/5 minus 3/5. Here's 4/5. I'm going to take away 3, and we end up with 1/5. That's the same thing as if I took 4 minus 3, which is 1. Now, before we get to adding and subtracting unlike fractions, you need to relax. This is going to be awesome. You're going to find this method super easy and super fun. So let's get started. I do want to mention that me, Catherine, uses an alternative method, sometimes called the butterfly method, to add and subtract fractions with different denominators. Catherine, or me, does not find the least common denominator, or LCD. If you prefer to find the LCD, that's fantastic. Use it. I found that students find the alternative method a little bit easier. All right, it's time to get started. Let me show you this example. I'm going to take 6/7 plus 1/9. First, I'm going to do it vertically, and then I'm going to do it horizontally. You'll notice it's the same addition. Some students see it easier vertically, and others see it easier horizontally. For the first couple, I'm going to do both of them. But after that, I'm only going to be doing it horizontally. I know what you're asking. How are you going to do this? How are we going to find a common denominator? Well, it's easy. We're just going to multiply by each other's denominator. Sounds weird, but let me show you what I mean. We're first going to take 6/7. You're going to notice that I multiplied by the other denominator. That's 9. When I multiply straight across, I get 54/63. Cool. Then I'm going to take 1/9, and I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to multiply by the other denominator, 7. When I multiply straight across, I get 7/63. Do you notice something interesting? Hello, we have a common denominator. Now all we have to do is add the tops and keep the same denominator. 54 plus 7 is 61, and then we keep 63. Hello, how easy is that? Let me show you the same addition, but horizontally. Once again, we're going to multiply by each other's denominator. Here's my 6/7, and I multiplied by the other denominator, 9, just like we did vertically. But this time, I'm going to have plus, and I'm going to put 1/9 right next to it. You're going to notice that I multiplied by the other denominator. One interesting thing I hope you see, I still have 54/63 and 7/63. The only difference is I have them horizontally. When I add, I get the same answer. 61/63. I know, insane in the membrane. Let's try another one. Once again, I'm going to do these vertically and horizontally. Here's 1/5 times the other denominator, which is 7/7. When I multiply straight across, I get 7/35. Now I'm going to take 5/7 times the other denominator, which is 5. This time I have 5 times 5, which is 25, and 7 times 5, which is 35. And again, we have the same denominator. We're going to add the tops, or the numerators, together, and we end up with 33/35. Perfect. I'm going to do the same addition, but this time horizontally. Once again, we're going to multiply each other's denominator. I'm taking 1/5 times 7 over 7 and 5/7 times 5 over 5, exactly what we did when we did it vertically. 1 times 7 is 7, and 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 5 is 25, and 7 times 5 is 35. Cool! Common denominator! So now all we have to do is add the top. 7 plus 25 is 33, and we keep the common denominator. Let's try one more vertically and horizontally, and then you're going to do a couple by yourself. I'm going to take 2/3 times the other denominator, which is 9. So 2 times 9 is 18, and 3 times 9 is 27. I'm going to take 5/9 times the other denominator, which is 3. I have 5 times 3, which is 15. 9 times 3 is 27. Control yourself. We have a common denominator. We're going to add the tops or the numerators. 18 plus 15 is 33, and we have the common denominator of 27. We haven't talked about this yet, but we always have to reduce our fractions. I happen to know that 3 times 11 is 33, and 3 times 9 is 27. When I cancel my common factor, I end up with 11 over 9. You might notice that 11 over 9 is an improper fraction, and I could change it to 1 2/9. If you don't remember how to convert from an improper fraction to a mixed number, you can always go back and review that video. Let's do it horizontally. Once again, I'm taking 2/3 times the other denominator, which is 9. And then I'm taking 5/9 times the other denominator, which is 3. 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 9 is 27. 5 times 3 is 15, and then 9 times 3 is also 27. Oh my goodness. When we add them, once again, we get 33 over 27. We reduce it, and here's our mixed number. Awesome. Let's do these two horizontally only. Remember I said I'm only going to be doing this from now on. 7/8 minus 1/3. Remember, we're going to multiply by each other's denominator. That means I'm going to take 7/8 times 3 over 3 minus 1/3 times 8 over 8. Notice I'm multiplying by each other's denominator. When I multiply, I end up with 21 over 24 minus 8 over 24. Yeah, common denominator. Since we're subtracting, we're going to take 21 minus 8, which is 13, and we keep the common denominator, which is 24. This one does not reduce, so it's my answer. Let's look at the next one. Once again, I'm going to multiply by each other's denominator. So I'm taking 1/2 times 9 over 9 minus 2/9 times 2 over 2. When I multiply, I have 9 over 18 minus 4 over 18. Common denominator is fantastic. I'm going to subtract 9 minus 4, which is 5, and we keep the common denominator of 18. 5 over 18 doesn't reduce, so we're done. Now tell me that wasn't super easy. I did mention that some students learn the butterfly method. Remember, you can pick any method you want, but let me show you how it works. Here's my subtraction. 3/5 minus 1/4. The first thing we need to do is to create our wings by cross multiplying. 3 times 4 is 12. Notice the 12 goes on the left wing. 5 times 1 is 5, and there's the 5 on the right wing. The next thing is we need to create our tail by multiplying straight across. 5 times 4 is 20. Are you ready for the magic? Yeah. The last thing we're going to do is create our fractions. We're going to have 12 over 20, which is going to be our common denominator, minus 5 over 20. Yeah, super easy. Let me take the butterfly away so you can kind of see what we did. We did some cross multiplying, and when we multiplied the denominators together, it's awesome. Now we're going to subtract. So let's rewrite this. What exactly is it going to look like? 12 over 20 minus 5 over 20. 12 minus 5 is 8, and we keep our common denominator of 20. But 8 over 20 reduces. Hopefully you notice that 4 goes into both of them. 4 times 2 and 4 times 5. We're going to cancel the common factor, which gives us 2/5. And that's our answer. Now that we have this under control, guess what? It's your turn to try. You're going to pause the lesson, subtract, then press play to check. Remember, you don't have to do the butterfly method. You can do the method we just did, where we multiply by each other's denominator. Okay, try this one. All right, let's see how you did. Did you remember to cross multiply? 3 times 9 is 27. 4 times 2 is 8. And then we had to multiply to get our tail. 4 times 9, which is 36. The next step is to rewrite the fractions. We'll have 27 over our denominator of 36, or the tail, minus 8 over the tail of 36. Cool! Here's what it looks like without the butterfly in the background. I'm going to rewrite it without the colors. Do you notice we have a common denominator? Oh, it's so easy. Since we're subtracting, let's do it. 27 minus 8 is 19, and we keep the common denominator of 36. Since 19 over 36 doesn't reduce, that's our answer. Now that we have this one under control, guess what? You get to practice one. Yep, you're going to pause the lesson, you're going to subtract, and then you're going to press play to check. If you don't really understand the butterfly method, you could do the method we started with by multiplying the fractions by each other's denominator. Okay, get started. Let's see how you did. In this one, I'm going to do it using the butterfly method. The first thing that we're going to do is multiply to get each wing. 3 times 9 is 27, and then 4 times 2 is 8. The next step is to figure out the tail. That's multiplying the denominators together. 4 times 9, which is 4 times 9, which is 36. The last step is to figure out what are the fractions. So let's see. We're going to have 27 over 36 minus 8 over 36. Cool. This is what it looks like without the butterfly in the background. I like to rewrite it just so we're clear. So let's rewrite it. Awesome. And guess what? There's a common denominator. Whoa! Crazy. Since we're subtracting, we're going to take 27 minus 8, which is 19. We keep the denominator, which is 36. Since 19 over 36 doesn't reduce, that's our answer. Here's 2 more for you to try. I'm going to show you using the horizontal method, but you can use the butterfly method too, because we're going to get the same answer. All right, pause the lesson, add, then press play to check. Okay, let's see how you did. In the first one, I'm going to multiply each other's denominator. In the first one, I'm going to multiply the fractions by each other's denominator. You can see that I took 5/8 times 10 over 10 plus 3/10 times 8 over 8. When I multiply, that gives us 50 over 80 plus 24 over 80. We're adding. We have a common denominator. Yay! So all we have to do is add the numerators or the tops. That gives us 74 over 80. Hopefully you notice that these are both even numbers. And it turns out that 2 goes into both of them. We're going to cancel out our common factor, and we end up with 37 over 40. That is our answer. Let's look at the next one. Once again, I multiplied each fraction by the other denominator. That's why I have 2/7 times 9 over 9 plus 4/9 times 7 over 7. When I multiply, I get 18 over 63 plus 28 over 63. Wah! Common denominator. I just love it. It makes our lives easier. Next, we add the tops or the numerators, and we get 46 over 63. Since I can't reduce it, that's my answer. Okay, we practiced addition. Now we're going to practice subtraction. You're going to pause the lesson, subtract, then press play to check. In this one, I'm also going to do the horizontal method. All right, let's see how you did. The first thing that I did was multiply by each other's denominator. I have 4/5 times 4 over 4 minus 3/4 times 5 over 5. When I multiply, I get 16 over 20 minus 15 over 20. And we have a common denominator. How cool is that? 16 minus 15 is 1, and we keep the same denominator of 20. 1 over 20 doesn't reduce, so that's our answer. Let's look at the second one. Once again, I'm going to multiply by each other's denominator. I have 7 over 11 times 9 over 9 minus 4/9 times 11 over 11. When I multiply, I get 63 over 99 minus 44 over 99. And we have a common denominator. How cool is that? Since we're subtracting, we're going to subtract the top, or the numerators. 63 minus 44 is 19, and we keep the same denominator of 99. 19 over 99 does not reduce, so that's my answer. Let's look at this one. In this one, we're adding 3 fractions together. If we remember the orders of operations, we always start from the left and work right. That means we're going to add these 2 first. The first thing I did was multiplied by each other's denominator, so I have 1/3 times 5 over 5 plus 2/5 times 3 over 3. When I multiply, I end up with 5 over 15 plus 6 over 15. Once again, this is so awesome. I love this. We have a common denominator. So we're going to add the tops, and we end up with 11 over 15. If I can reduce here, I want to do that, but 11 over 15 doesn't reduce. What I'm going to do next is take 11 over 15 and add it to my last fraction, 3/7. Once again, I'm going to multiply each one by the other's denominator. I have 11 over 15 times 7 over 7 plus 3 over 7 times 15 over 15. When I multiply, I end up with 77 over 105 plus 45 over 105. Common denominator, you gotta love it. We add the numerator or the tops together, and we end up with 122 over 105. 122 over 105 doesn't reduce, but we can change it to a mixed number, which gives us 1 and 17 over 105. Here's one for you to try. You're going to pause the lesson, subtract, then press play to check. Okay, let's see how you did. Once again, we have to follow the orders of operations. We're going to work left to right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract 5/6 minus 1/4. I then multiply each fraction by the other denominator. This gives me 5/6 times 4 over 4 minus 1/4 times 6 over 6. My next step is to multiply, and we have a common denominator. Since we're subtracting, we're going to take 20 minus 6, which is 14, and we keep our common denominator 24. At this point, I could leave 14 over 24, but to make the next subtraction easier, let's first reduce. Remember, we still have to subtract 2/5. I happen to know that 2 goes into both of them. I cancel out their common factor, and I end up with 7 over 12. That's what we're going to use. Now, I'm going to take 7/12 minus 2/5. Once again, I multiply by each other's denominator, so I have 7/12 times 5 over 5 minus 2/5 minus 12 over 12. When I multiply, I end up with 35 over 60 minus 24 over 60. Common denominator. So all we have to do is subtract the numerators or the tops. 35 minus 24 is 11, and we keep the same denominator of 60. Since 11 over 60 doesn't reduce, that's our answer. Let's look at this word problem. The local historical society is going to build a white picket fence around this lighthouse property to keep tourists from walking onto private property. The measure around the lighthouse property is 1/5 mile wide and 1/9 mile long. Find the amount of fencing needed. We're going to be finding the perimeter. And to find the perimeter, we add all the sides. You see, I made a little model below our picture. To find the perimeter, we're going to add all the sides up. I put the common denominators next to each other. I could add 1/5 plus 1/5 and get 2/5, but I decided just to multiply by each other's denominator. So 1/5 times 9 over 9 plus 1/5 times 9 over 9 plus 1/9 times 5 over 5 plus 1/9 times 5 over 5. This might be the long way, but I want to make sure you understand what we're doing. 5 times 9 is 45, so we end up with 9 over 45 plus 9 over 45 plus 5 over 45 plus 5 over 45. Phew! We have a common denominator. Let's add the numerators together. That gives us 28. That means we need 28 45ths mile of a fence to go around our perimeter. Here's one for you to try. You're going to pause the video, Figure out the perimeter and then press play to check. Let's look at this one. This is a replica of a Great Britain license plate. It measures 5/2 feet by 2/3 feet. Find the perimeter of the plate. I have a little picture below here. The perimeter is when we add all the sides up. So I'm going to take 5/2 plus 5/2, that's the top and the bottom, plus 2/3 plus 2/3, that's the two sides. Just like I did in the last one, we could take 5/2 plus 5/2 and get 10/2. But I really want to show you what we're doing here. So what I did is I multiplied by the other denominator. I took 5/2 times 3/3 plus 5/2 times 3/3. Then I took 2/3 and multiplied by 2/2 plus 2/3 times 2/2. Remembering 2 times 3 is 6, we end up with 15/6 plus 15/6 plus 4/6 plus 4/6. When we add, we end up with 38/6. Remember, we always have to reduce. Since these are both even numbers, I know that 2 goes into both of them. I'm going to cancel out the common factor, and I end up with 19/3 feet. But we usually don't say that, right? I mean, we wouldn't go to Home Depot and say, I need 19/3 feet of... That doesn't make sense. So we're going to change this to a mixed number. We're going to divide, and we end up with 6 1/3 feet. Now when you go into Home Depot and you say, I need 6 1/3 feet, they're going to totally understand what you're saying. Here's the self-quiz. You're going to pause the quiz, solve, then press play to check. All right, let's see how you did. For number one, did you get C, 21/40? That's correct. For number 2, did you get B, 26/63? That's also correct. And finally, number 3 is A, 1/44. If you got these correct, you can move along in the video. For the rest of us, I'm going to show you how I did it. Let's look at number 1. For this one, I multiplied by each other's denominators. 1/8 times 5/5 plus 2/5 times 8/8. That gives me 5/40 plus 16/40. Since I have a common denominator, all I have to do is add the top, or the numerators. 5 plus 16 is 21, and that gives us our answer, 21/40. Let's look at number 2. Once again, I multiplied by each other's denominators. 6/7 times 9/9 minus 4/9 times 7/7. When I multiply, I end up with 54/63 minus 28/63. Since we have a common denominator, we're just going to subtract the numerators. 54 minus 28 is 26, and we keep the same denominator of 63. That's how I got the answer, 26/63. Let's look at the last one, number 3. Once again, I multiplied by each other's denominators. 3/4 times 11/11 minus 8/11 times 4/4. When I multiply, I get 33/44 minus 32/44. I have a common denominator of 44, so that stays the same. 33 minus 32 is 1. And that's how I get A, 1/44. Thanks for watching this video. Did you know that there are video guides and worksheets available for all of my picrustable lecture series? Yeah! Make sure to subscribe too, so you won't miss the new videos. I love this stuff! Have a request? Let me know at picrustable@gmail.com or in this YouTube comment box below. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you'll stop by again!